don't worry, this story has a happy ending. My wife is sitting in her home office, working away diligently on whatever projects need work done for her job. This is amazing to me, as she has just received a second round of bad news in as many days. But let's start at the beginning. Last week, my wife went in for her first mammogram. Well, she said resigned, I'm getting older, so they gotta look at my girls. That day, they found a shadow. The doctors weren't sure exactly what it was, so they scheduled her for a follow-up. It's probably nothing, they said, but we'd like to be sure. Yesterday, my wife went in for the follow-up. This time, they really didn't like what they saw. The doctors still weren't sure what it was, so they scheduled a biopsy. It is visually consistent with what we see in cancer, they said, but we can't be certain. Let's pause here for a second. To tell someone they might have cancer and that they need to schedule an appointment to find out is just plain fucking absurd. Look, I know I have the IQ of a potato, but shouldn't there be a way to have a floating slot available to extract whatever sample they need extracted at the same time as the screening? If you don't need the slot, great. If you do need it, it's there for you. That way, instead of being told, this looks bad, come back next week, you'd hear, this looks bad, let's get you prepped for the next procedure. I can't speak for everyone, but I'll go out on a limb and say that if given the option of having a procedure immediately to find out whether or not you have cancer, or having to go home full of dread and scheduling an appointment for a week or maybe longer out, that's pretty much a no-brainer. People want to know ASAP. After that appointment, my wife called me crying, which is the natural response you'd have when being told it looks like cancer. Then she called her mom, her sisters, and all her friends. Following that, she came home and took the afternoon off from work. We finished The Watchmen on HBO, and then, for something light, watched Josie and the Pussycats, which, for the record, deserved much better than it got. It's a damned good satire and takes on consumerism, trends, and the lemming-like nature of certain demographics. So, blow me critics that have it at 53% on Rotten Tomatoes. It might not be high art, but it's a fun, intelligent movie. Anyway, we read our respective books in bed, turned out the lights, and slept. This morning, my wife got up, went to the gym, came home, ate breakfast, and went down to her office and started working. Just like that. Because that's what you do. Bad news? Buck up, buttercup. You absorb it, deal with it, and then life moves on, whether you're ready or not. Personally, I'm probably faking it more than I'm willing to admit. I mowed the lawn, went to the gym, posted stupid shit online, but my mind kept traveling to the darkest places possible. And it sucked. I'm sure her mind was slipping to those depths as well, but I couldn't burden her with my bullshit. I tried staying on the straight and narrow, saying all the right things like, it's probably nothing, but if it is the worst possible outcome, then they're going to cut it out of you and everything will be fine. Which, for the record, I believe. Maybe I'm in denial, but I do think that no matter what, everything turns out okay. When my wife and I found out we couldn't conceive naturally, she was devastated. I figured modern science would have our back. When the first IVF embryo didn't take, my wife felt defeated. I told her it would happen when it was supposed to. Now, we have 2 kiddos we love more than anything. Life doesn't happen on our terms, it just happens. The biopsy happened on Tuesday, June 30th. We haven't really talked much about what's going to happen, mostly because we've talked about it in the days leading up to now. We're in the mindset of continually moving forward. The amazing thing about resiliency is in the post-response actions. I'm not sure if either of us followed a 5 stages of list of grief or acceptance, but after the initial shock, normalcy set in. Because, as we have to remember, right now we're dealing with a fear of the unknown. We haven't really received any bad news. This is all projection. The mind is creating unwanted scenarios, traveling down rabbit holes, and imagining the worst. It's not healthy, but that's how the mind works. We humans like fear. I don't know why we're wired this way, but we are. If we weren't, we wouldn't be so easily manipulated. Look at how we respond to media stimulus. The easiest way to label the media is to call it either left or right-wing biased, depending on the network. I call the entire institution sensationalistic. The media knows it's easier to scare us into watching than to report boring, mundane facts. What do we hear about? The 10,000 civilian police interactions that happen peacefully every week? Or the one interaction that results in a shooting or death? Likewise, it's easier to believe you're the one special person with cancer than one of the many people who don't have it. The brain likes fear. It's unfortunate and absurd. I drive us to the hospital, not because she'll be unable to drive when it's over, but for moral support. We make our way to the imaging center on the 4th floor and are shown to a small room. I transpose the itchy and scratchy theme song in my mind because we wait and wait and wait and wait and wait. It feels like hours, but in reality is only minutes. Such is the boredom you feel while at any doctor's office. Luckily, my wife is a social butterfly. A gym friend of hers happens to work in this ward and stops by. "I wanted to make sure you were okay with my being in the room with you," she states. Some women are shy when it comes to exposing themselves in front of folks they know, but not my wife. She's happy to have a familiar face with her and gives the green light for her friend to see her shirtless. They share a smile, as women tend to do, and then it's back to twirling thumbs. When they finally come for my wife, I give her a hug goodbye and sit in the room alone. The procedure itself is shorter than the waiting was. My wife is back, changed, and ready to go get cupcakes within 30 minutes. Because, of course, you get cupcakes after something like this. It will take 3 to 5 business days for the results, which might normally mean Friday, but since Friday is a holiday, we're prepared to be in limbo for almost a week. Huzzah! 2 days later, my wife gets a phone call. Her friend saw the results come in, and though standard procedure is to have all tests go through proper channels before calling the patient, this friend called the doctor in charge on his personal phone at home to get clearance to give my wife those results. Benign. It's good to have friends with connections, especially when you get the best possible news. The mood in the house is that of relief and joy. We are thankful. All the fear and worry was for nothing. Sort of. I suppose it's all perspective. A scare like this is horrible, yes, but it also serves as a reminder. We humans are fragile creatures, and life is precious. If you'd like to learn more about me, I can be found at nathantimmel.com.